Welcome to Takeover, the most underrated sports debate show on YouTube. Make sure you hit that like button and subscribe for this weekly content. Hold on. We don't coordinate on this show, but man, I'm loving that shirt, Josh. You missed it today. You're off. What's going on?
What makes you think that I own a New Orleans Saints jersey, Cam?
I can loan you.
I would never want to put that anywhere on my body, ever. As he already said, and as you guys already know, my name is Josh.
My name is Deandra.
It's your boy Cam, and this is Takeover.
We play it all in night. Yeah, need it all in advance. The opposition know we're ready for it. Like a supper we eating, it won't be the last. Grind out the muscle, pull up. Poker right on the grass. We coming in, take over everything, run it up. Not that holding me back. 3 in the wood, rushing. I don't like Dutch, don't even matter, you know I'm facing. When I roll a paper, I like to go double. Run up a check, flip a W, make it an M.
So the New Orleans Saints have gotten off to a hot start with the new QB, Jameis Winston, as they defeated the Packers 38-3 last Sunday. Does Jameis Winston make the Saints contenders this year?
Deandra, I'd like to ask you a follow-up question. Is a pig pork? The answer is yes to the Saints. And here, look. Usually we do all this thing where we have to make a note, notes and just talk. I don't need no notes for this, okay? Look, the Saints' Achilles heel throughout, I think, the past 5 seasons has been the ability to pass the ball downfield. Yeah, we've had Drew Brees, and Drew Brees is a top 5 quarterback of all time, in my opinion. And you can't run zone coverage versus Drew Brees, and that's where he honestly killed teams. But Jameis Winston's ability to throw the ball downfield completely transcends the Saints, not to mention how good of an offensive coordinator and a coach Sean Payton actually is. And I feel like people forget how good Jameis Winston was. Jameis Winston was a Heisman winner. Jameis Winston was the only quarterback in NFL history to have 2 4,000-yard seasons back-to-back. And we all know him from throwing them 30 interceptions, but he threw 30 touchdowns as well. And you think about the Saints offense and how it's constructed right now. There's no heavy hitters. Josh talks to me all the time. You guys have one of the worst receiving cores in the league, but somehow Sean Payton and Jameis Winston made it work versus a great Green Bay defense. And you look at guys like Marquez Callaway and other guys that haven't been as used in the offense, and it's because of Drew Brees' inability to throw the ball deep downfield. But when you have Jameis and his ability to keep throwing the ball down the field, it makes the Saints a harder offense to stop. Not to mention, we haven't really introduced weapons like Taysom Hill. Alvin Kamara didn't really have a great game, but the Saints seem to control the flow of the game, and that's where I feel like it's going to hurt. It's going to hurt a lot of other teams. Not to mention the Saints' defense. Hey Josh, do you know what Aaron Rodgers' QBR was last Sunday?
It was like in the single digits, wasn't it?
It was 14.3. He had the second worst QBR versus the Saints defense. And we all know the Saints have some heat seekers on defense, whether it's Cam Jordan, Malcolm Jenkins, Marcus Davenport. You know they still have Marshawn Lattimore on the outside. Marcus Williams, ever since the Minneapolis Miracle, gets better and better every year. And I feel like the Saints are going to be a hard team to beat. And beyond all of that, I feel like the 2 scariest teams are the teams that have nothing to play for and a team that is playing inspired football. The city in New Orleans is in distress with the hurricane, and so the Saints are playing not for themselves, but for the city of New Orleans. So when they play inspired football, you see what happens. And the last time they played inspired football, the Saints won the Super Bowl.
I think most of what you just said, Cam, was spot on. I like your point about New Orleans playing for the city, because we saw what happened last time did that. The Saints do have a great defense. They've got plenty of talent over there, and if Marcus Davenport could ever really put it together and start to look like a first round pick, then it's going to be even scarier. And Sean Payton is a fantastic head coach. We've seen that for years and years and years. But the way you're talking about famous Jameis Winston, Mr. Crab Legs himself. Yeah. You would think that he had like 30 completions for 350 yards, 5 touchdowns, and he had this a fantastic game. He only went 14 of 20 for 158, and he did have 5 touchdowns. But 14 of 20 for 158 doesn't scream, I make this team a contender to me. All right? I don't think that he played a fantastic game. I'm not trying to take away from him, but I think a lot of that was owed to the coaching acumen of Sean Payton and his idea of, because Sean Payton, as we've seen with Drew Brees, he is fantastic at building an offense that is built to hide the weaknesses of the quarterback and accentuate the strengths. So with Drew Brees, it was a lot of short passes, kill him in the zone. But with Jameis, it's turned into a lot more of, kind of scheme things open for him. And if you have to scheme things open for your quarterback, if your quarterback is almost wholly reliant on the head coach to have a great play call, I don't think that he makes anybody a contender. I think Jameis Winston's entire job right now with the Saints is don't screw this up. And when you look at even more of the stats, the Saints ran the ball 39 times versus the Green Bay Packers. So they had a lot. You talked about they were more balanced or they were able to control the football. That's why, because they had a commitment to the run game. And Alvin Kamara, he didn't have an amazing game, but he still had 80-something yards on the ground. He had 20 carries. And then on top of that, the defense was able to hold Aaron Rodgers to the absolutely abysmal game that you talked about. And then this is the other point I want to bring home, and this is why Jameis Winston doesn't make the Saints contenders. The Saints already are contenders without him. When they didn't have Drew Brees last year, or the last 2-3 years, they still went 8-1. Taysom Hill went 3-1, and Teddy Bridgewater went 5-0. So I don't think that Jameis Winston is necessarily making this team better or worse. I think he's adding a different element that teams haven't seen out of them in a few years, but I don't think that he significantly impacts their ability to win a title. I still think they'll make the playoffs. I think they have a load of talent everywhere else, but I don't think Jameis Winston is going to be the sole reason that they're in the conversation.
So I believe that the Saints are going to be playoff contenders as well because, well, I'm going to talk about Jameis in a second, but I think people are forgetting that, you know, as you said about the supporting cast, he has a really good supporting cast. So, you know, you have the defense, as you guys talked about. This defense has been a playoff caliber defense for the last couple of years, not just this year. Even though I believe they're missing a couple pieces, I still believe they're going to be good. You have AK, and obviously you talked about Sean Payton's elite coaching. But when you look at last year, they still won their division even with Tom Brady and the Buccaneers being there. And the only reason, in my opinion, the reason why they didn't progress further was because of Drew Brees' performance in the playoffs. And, you know, when you look at how the Saints play, I believe they outplayed Tampa Bay actually, but the defense really took advantage of the fact that, like you said, Drew Brees couldn't push it downfield. Well, Jameis Winston can throw a gun down the field as well. And so I believe if teams come in with the same mindset as they had last year, they're going to get torched or punished for it. And, you know, Jameis Winston, when he did play for Tampa Bay, he did lead the league in explosive plays downfield. But a point that you said, Josh, where you brought up his stats against Green Bay, and you said they weren't really that impressive to you. But some things that I noticed was like he was making better decisions with the ball, and obviously you look at his ability to throw the ball deep as well. So I'm looking at how, like, in certain situations where he was making his progressions and he didn't see anything open, instead of throwing an interception, he either threw the ball away or he tucked it and he ran for it. So it's certain things like that that really impressed me. It's not just like, you know, you have to actually watch everything that's going on as well, not just go by the numbers. And so, like you pointed out by I'm just saying. I mean, when you look at, you guys brought up Sean Payton as well, and you brought up the fact about Teddy Bridgewater and Taysom Hill. He brought the best out of those players, even though they might not even be as talented as Jameis Winston. So I believe they can do this. I mean, I believe Sean Payton will be able to do the same thing with Jameis Winston and bring the best out of him.
And one point I want to, the reason I say they're contenders because of Jameis is because of the way the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are constructed. And I say that because I think we all picked Tampa, well, except for DeAndre, me and you, Josh, both picked the Tampa Bay Buccaneers because they look like they just are head over heels better than anybody.
Yes.
The Saints beat them twice last year, and I feel like the Jameis' ability to spread the ball around and not just play dink and dunk doesn't really support Tampa Bay because of the way their corners are set up, and it doesn't give not Deion Jones, but it doesn't give Devin White and those guys the ability to hit and heat seek guys that are in shallow spots right there. So I feel like it definitely puts more pressure on Tampa Bay's secondary, which isn't as strong.
That's a valid point.
I think.
I just also am not willing to throw a lot of belief behind the guy that had 30 interceptions in a season just yet, because one game does not a season make. But
I mean, he threw for over 5,000 yards, so.
And he threw 30 interceptions.
Okay.
All right, but switching over to the next topic, the Ohio State Buckeyes were defeated by the number 12 Oregon Ducks last week, and they fell to number 9 in the top 25 AP poll. Do the Buckeyes have any chance to reach the playoffs after this loss?
I believe they do have a chance if they win out and win the Big Ten Conference. However, I believe that teams like Georgia, Oklahoma, and Oregon, you're going to have to watch how they play. If they play really well, it's going to be more difficult for them to get in. But obviously, we have more weeks to go. We have more games to play. So there's room for those teams to mess up and there's room for Ohio State to look better. But to me, in my opinion, as I've watched Ohio State, they're not as good as people made them out to be when the season first started. Many people were making them out to be elite, and they're just not elite to me, at least as of right now. We still have some more games to go. But I believe they have the wrong people in the defensive staff. I believe as much talent as was recruited to the defense or to the team, you should not be letting a team like Minnesota score 30 points on you. When you look at the defense, they've given up over 31 points to Minnesota and Oregon, and they had over 1,100 yards on offense accumulated on them. And when you look at the game against Oregon was in complete control the entire game. And they were missing two impactful players with Flo and Thibodeau, and Anthony Brown didn't exactly have an elite game. So, and I just think that when you look at Stroud as well, he didn't exactly impress me. He's not as accurate, and his decision-making needs some work, but he's playing like I would expect a freshman to play. But another thing that concerns me about Ohio State is their run game as well. They have 500-plus yards in total offense, but you were only able to get 14 points and a half. So that lets me know you're not completing drives. So like I said before, they have a chance to make it, but I think that's situational with Georgia, Oklahoma, and Oregon, teams like that. But I think they're in trouble because, like I said before, I don't think they're as good as everyone was making them out to be. So
I think that's the case for a lot of teams that are up at the top. I think the only team right now that we can say that has been as good as advertised is UGA and Bama. Because Oklahoma was supposed to be this like offensive powerhouse that was going to bury teams, and so far they have not been doing that. And their defense is supposed to be improved, and they have not been doing that. And we've also seen, with Clemson, they have definitely not been the team that everybody thought they would be. But I don't want to say that the Buckeyes are like done in the playoff conversation just yet, because there's way too much that could happen. As I was pointing out, Oklahoma could easily drop one if somebody's able to get Spencer Rattler off his game. Clemson could easily drop a second one or just not win the ACC. And even if they do win the ACC, if Ohio State wins out and wins their conference, I'm putting them over Clemson personally. It really will depend on what Oregon does, because if Oregon wins the Pac-12 and stays undefeated, I think they have an easy in over Ohio State because they beat Ohio State. I think Bama has typically locked in unless they find a way to lose. But then you've also got teams like Cincinnati, who are looking like they're picking right back up where they left off. And you got Iowa, who is also in the Big Ten with the Buckeyes. They're looking something dangerous right now. So I don't want to say that they're completely done, but I do think that they have some things to work on, and they're going to have to win out to give themselves a chance, because no two-loss team has ever made the college football playoff. But again, they're gonna need some help, because if it stays the way it is right now with Bama, UGA, OU, and Iowa, which it won't, because UGA or Bama's gonna have to lose in the SEC championship game. But even then, I don't know if I would say that Ohio State is a feasibly better team than either one of those guys right now.
I don't think there's a chance for Ohio State to get back in the dance unless havoc happens. Like, I think 4 or 5 teams will have to lose for them to honestly have a chance to really get back in the flow. And I feel like the problem with Ohio State right now is they have no identity right now. Usually Ohio State's identity was usually run the ball, and past stars we've seen Ezekiel Elliott completely torture teams that haven't been playing in the Big Ten. You looked at that game versus Oregon, it looked like the other way around. Oregon was manhandling Ohio State at the front line, and their defense has been pretty bad as well. So I'm not sure how far this Ohio State team can go. And even if you guys say if they win out, I don't believe they'll win out. I feel like there's a Penn State team in the Big Ten that's going to cause a lot of problems. And as you said, Iowa looks good as well. So I'm not really sure how much C.J. Stroud and this Ohio State team is capable of doing, especially at this point. So I don't think there's a good chance for them to go in. And like you said, Josh, you got Cincinnati and the other guys on the back burner.
Yeah, but they're not going to put an AAC team in there. We've learned that. But hey, any given Saturday, right?
Yeah, you never know. I feel like college football, it's a playoff every Saturday. If you lose, you might be out. Well, that is going to wrap up our episode for today. Do you guys have anything to say?
Why are you not subscribed yet? What is your problem? You saw this episode. This was great. And I wouldn't even put this up in our top 5. Why are you not subscribed? Hit the big red button.
You got anything?
No, that's good.
Give us your takes.
I also want to say it's a belated birthday because birthday was yesterday. But happy birthday, Josh. You know, from Takeover to you, from me to you. I know I jab at you a lot, man. But you're a good guy. You're my guy, man. You're my guy.
I appreciate it.
All right, that's gonna wrap up our episode. Takeover out.
Yeah, we play it all in night. Yeah, need it all in advance. The opposition know we're ready for it. Like a supper we eating, it won't be the last. Grind out the muscle, pull up. Parker right on the grass. We coming in, take over everything, run it up. Nothing holding me back. 3 in the wood, rushing. I don't like Dutch, don't even matter, you know I'm a facing. When I roll a paper, I like to go double. Run up a check, flip a W, make it an M. I need